Hey everyone, welcome to the BetSperts Golf BMW Championship Betting Preview. I'm Ryan Noonan, joined here as always by my friends. First, our director of all things content related here at BetSperts Golf. It's Andy Mauder. Andy, we're almost done. How are we feeling?
I have nothing good to say about BMWs. Nice cars and all.
Mercedes guy?
God, I used to have one. Like you have to, oh good, my headlight's out. I have to replace it through my wheel well. I think I actually have to take this tire off to replace the headlight. Like, it was a fun little car. It was a 6-speed, but my God, never again. And also the playoffs. I'm still down on the playoffs, although pretty fun last week. Pretty fun. Although the ending was a little more topsy-turvy than a guy had hoped for. But when, like, in hindsight, that was a fun playoff. Like, if you were a third-party observer, like, holy shit, you guys. Like, you can't script this kind of stuff. And I love that I think it was actually just, like, the FedEx Playoffs account had someone go out there and try to hit that shot from, like, the retaining wall thing, and it just went right back in the water. It's like, thank God. Because that's what was going – that was always what was going to happen. Both guys almost made, like, a horrible choice. Yeah, I'm just climbing this pond, see what happens. My God.
We got there, boys. We got there, Jeff.
Yeah. For them both to have, like, laid up, well, Straka took the penalty and Zal laid up on the previous hole and make their pars was also magical. And, listen, I don't feel bad for Straka. But, you know, and even if he should have, I'm certain he was trying to hit his ball 35 feet left of the green when he went in the water.
Yeah.
But, you know, nerves will get anybody, even if you've won before, even if you've won this year. He would have had no idea. Like, to him, that Zalatoris ball is sitting up on, like, a puff of grass or can be picked clean off a rock. He has no idea that ball is dead. The same reaction Zalatoris probably has when Straka hits the side hill and doesn't go in the water with the tee shot previous hole. Straka's probably got that reaction when the Zalatoris ball stays out of the water and he's assuming, I don't know, I've seen guys pick balls clean off rock like he's going to put it to like, he doesn't know how screwed Zalatoris is. He doesn't have a spotter there reporting back to him.
It was wild. There were so many things that happened in the last couple hours of that golf tournament. Even Willie, when you're feeling like, I think Jeff, you had like mentioned it on Twitter that it was going to be like Heartbreak 4.0 or whatever. Like, but then he like rattles off the tree and like finds the fairway, but probably even gains 20 yards. And you start to feel like, maybe this is going for Willie today after it typically doesn't go for Willie. And that just the way it came together for Sepp of all people, for it to have been Sepp, like considering the form that he came in, just it was abysmal. So I don't know that he would have, I don't know. I don't want to say this about a kid who's this young, but for him to have been this close again in this situation to not get over the hump against Sepp Straka might have actually had a little bit of a lingering effect. And I don't want, we'll never know. And I'm glad that we'll never know because we got there, but this one would have been hard to come back from. Losing in a playoff to JT at the PGA, even the list stuff early in the season, not being able to chase down and hold off Fitz in Boston. Like those are all legit contenders at, again, like tasting the majors, but Sepp in this spot would have been hard. So I'm glad we didn't have to have that conversation today, and we can kind of celebrate.
We wouldn't have a show today. There would have been no show. Man, everything would have been canceled. My God! And the worst part to it, I told this story on a different show, but I promised the kids they could, because I went to Vegas, forgot to buy them presents, so I just handed them cash, and I'm like, hey, we'll give a few minutes, and like, shit, this is going to a playoff. I'm like, they're in the car. Like, fine, we'll go anyway. So I watched a lot of this from the putting green at a sporting goods store in the mall. Like the best part, like there's totally another guy who doesn't want to be at the mall either, and he's just camped out, and he has like 2 small children that are, just keep putting, guys. Like, just keep playing with the putters, and he's just leaning up against a wall watching that. And Jeff's there and back again. It's very invisible right now, but it was
Just want to show
it
off
was
the Jordans.
more stress than I wanted in my life at that point.
It was like, I get that it probably was an enjoyable watch for a third party, and a tough couple hours for golf is boring crowd among us. But yeah, it wasn't necessarily an enjoyable watch when you're holding that ticket, and like I had people that had tailed it, that are messaging me, should I cash out? Like, what should we do here? And it's like, no, like, we're in a coin flip against Sepp Straka. This is the better golfer. If you're taking this pre-tournament, you're not cashing out. You'd hate to know what you left on the table there at the end. So it was incredible theater. You can't buy the magic, right, Feinberg?
Magic is not for sale, and I think that in many ways shows it again. And I would also argue, listen, when the leaderboard is really bad and it's easy to make fun of, like even in strong fields, it's bad for me from a betting perspective. Certainly, like, I'm not going to win money if that like Spawn, Merritt, Straka ends up being the duel. All that being said, is that's also like part of the magic of golf. Like, those guys, like, when that happens, when those guys hold on. So, like, again, it's bad for the betting, which in like betting is so taken over, like how I almost look at everything at sports at this point. Also because I'm on here doing shows with you, do shows with Pat or other people, like that is sort of like the lane for which I'm going to speak about the sports now. So that is sort of the overbearing way in which the lens in which I'm kind of taking incidents in. Like even the Cam Smith stuff, it's been highly debated. Like, to me, it's like, well, what about those guys that like bet it overnight, or that sort of stuff? Like, that's a crazy like part of the bet. So everything is from betting, but I don't know. It's all part of the magic. Magic isn't for sale. I don't know that we're going to sniff those back of the pack guys this week, but that's the fun part of golf. If it's a guy who never like is a Sahith or a Pendrith going up against Rory, like, that's magic. That's the magic. Like, duel. Let's go. Y'all tee off from the same place. Let's have fun.
How could they have done this Cam Smith thing differently? Do you think that there was anything? Because I've seen some people speculate that they want, like, maybe they saw it after the facts and they wanted to tell him in person. I mean, how can they? Because again, like, they have betting partners. They know that this is a big part of their business. For that to be,
but they don't care about the betting. Like,
I get that they don't care. Why should they?
No, but I just mean, like, they have betting partners. Yes, they have betting partners because these betting companies have decided they want to throw lots of money at them. When you see them do the betting content, you realize they don't give a fuck about their betting partners. They're just saying, yeah, pay us. Like, we'll take your money. Even for like the stuff on odds, just like let Colt do the read. Because at least like he's doing segments with Sleaze and they're like making bets and they got partnered. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know that that's relevant. I know that, people at Action, or I know Vision, like that's been a big talking point. And as I said, that's where I see it from. I'm going to keep my hands down. They're giving people a headache on this angle, I'm sure. So my hands are now on my bum. Like Andy might be ready to throw up. So I apologize.
I just switched tabs.
I don't know what they could have done. Maybe just do it sooner because we didn't see it. But the first time, I think golf rules are stupid. I think it gives the golf crowd be like, this was still so stuck up. There's so many rules. Like, if you didn't sign your scorecard, you're disqualified despite it having the right number of strokes on it. Like, there's some stupid things. This, I think, would qualify as one of those stupid things. That being said, I didn't need a zoomed-in look. When I saw the first replay on Sunday, that ball is clearly on that red line. So I don't know when they say we saw it Saturday, we weren't sure, we wanted to sleep on it. That's crazy. Because it needs one not even zoomed-in look to know that was a penalty. That should have been called the first time anyone on this rules council sees it, because you didn't need special camera or zoom in to know that ball sat on the line. Cam Smith should have been asked about it Saturday. Should have been dealt with Saturday. So it's really embarrassing. Really, really embarrassing.
I didn't even see it. Didn't watch any golf Saturday. Don't give a shit about it.
I didn't see it Sunday morning.
We can sit and bellyache. Nothing's gonna change. Like golf is moving at a glacial pace with rule changes. Like I remember looking at it. I'm like, like that's golf. Like sometimes it's gonna help me, sometimes it's gonna hurt me. And I thought about it. I'm like, I'm probably happy with this one. Like if there's somebody here who could, make. I think at that point Sungjae was within a couple strokes of the lead, and I think I had him probably as more of a like, man, I could win with Sungjae more than, hey, I could win with Zal, like on at certain points, especially when I checked the leaderboards. But I remember saying like, this is probably good. Like he's Cam Smith, somebody who could make a run at the top, and I don't need that. So let's push him back a couple. I'm fine with it. But yeah, I don't know. It's
it was just relevant because again, like when you have like
I hated
and Sepp Straka at the top of the board, like heading into Sunday morning, and Cam played really good on Saturday. He played really well, and then all of a sudden you're seeing Cam got a little bit of steam even before teeing off, and he got to like 3-1 in some places and was like the favorite pre-teeing off on Sunday. And I mean, I imagine we would feel probably differently if we had fired live on Cam or if we had Cam pre-tournament. So thought it was interesting, but happy that the Willie wagon came home to roost. 3 of us had it. Ron, PGA Splits as well. Brian Kirshner, basically anyone associated with BetSports Golf was on that. And, most of the community was too, which is also great. And also very rare that there's such a chalky bet like that ends up getting a group, celebration and jerk fest. But hey, we're on the right side of it as well and cashed a winner.
And again, it's not the first time the PGA's ever like not been timely about stuff like this. Like the Hideki thing where he had paint on the face of his club. Like
play 5 holes.
Just like let's just let him play like 5 more holes before we tell him he can't play anymore. I don't know who's in charge of this shit. It's apparently people without brains, but we digress. We celebrate our young prince, who is your betting favorite now to win the whole shebang, just because of all the points you accrue from winning one of these tournaments. It moves you so far up. And like the assumption is if he plays to, and again, if I'm the guy making the bets or if I'm the guy setting these lines, you assume if he plays to the baseline level that his odds imply, he's going to have a head start on next week. And it might not be the big head start, the 10 strokes, but he's going to be somewhere in the middle of that pack, and he's going to be starting, 4 to 5 strokes ahead of a bunch of guys that are sitting there at the bottom and have to start it even. So like good for him, especially financially, because it's fun. It's funny how it just snowballs on it. It's like, not only did you get that check, but now you're setting yourself up to really, really have a good starting position once you head to East Lake. So I'm very, very happy for the guy. And honestly, God, I might have just walked off a pier if I didn't have a bet on him when he finally broke through. And the joke was too, like I said, when we were betting on Zal at majors, I said, man, do you really think he could break through to major? That's tough. And then he almost does a bunch. And then this was the same thing was, hey, this isn't a major and there's not the pressure of a major, but I'm like, it's a major field. Like you still have to beat all the best in the world.
To a guy who hasn't won, it can feel like a major because it's undisputably, even to guys that have won, like there's very few guys in the field who this week, even with Zal winning, this is the biggest win of their career. Like for a lot of them, even players near the top of the board,
The caddy. What about the caddy, guys?
Talk about like a great first week on the job for like just all time for anyone ever. Like, hey, it's my first week on the bag, and he makes what, 275 mil before taxes come out, like 275,000. Excuse me, 275.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume there's like a special deal there. I wouldn't be surprised if the old caddy still got a piece of yesterday.
I bet so.
in a contract.
I hope so.
And you can't
God.
just show up at the FedEx Cup and get full rate for like the biggest purse of the season. That because I'm in a one and done, like just a head-to-head one with that Cam Smith win was worth more. Or sorry, that win was paid out more than Cam Smith at the Open.
Yep.
Like there's some big, the cheddar is real. And before we move on to BMW, remember last week we spoke about FedEx and like how it's like it's flawed, because of the events and the points and the field strengths, and then even in this system, how the stagger doesn't feel right. And I felt like NASCAR treats its audience like smarter than golf treats. I actually came up with a fix, guys.
Okay.
A common fix that people have. It's the match play fit. It's the half and half where you go from like 30 to 14, or you find a way to stagger. If the guys at the top, maybe they even get buys into match play, a couple of them. And then you do weekend match play. But not just that, because I know they're worried. How do I put this? It's not just one match. It's not just one match. Like they got to turn it into like a day of celebrating golf. You have like Steph Curry versus somebody. You have like the champion disabled veterans in a match. Like, no, they're out ahead on the course or behind the FedEx Cup champion match. But if you guys watch these US AMs or these girl AMs or these senior AMs that go on team, match play, or even at any club you go to, match play is just such an important part of golf at all levels. I don't know why the top level in golf doesn't give it the respect that everyone who likes golf respects it for. Like every tournament in the world outside of the pros gives its champions match play, and the majors don't do it. And I think it would work. And to alleviate the concern of it being Sungjae Im versus Russell Henley, is you turn it into like more. You turn it into like a day to celebrate golf. And there's charity. And yes, someone's going to win the huge FedEx Cup, but the PGA can override, can talk about how much money they're giving away that week also. And like women's, I don't know. You can do many
You could really
things.
stagger the make it some big jumps between third and fourth, fifth and sixth,
Huge.
seventh and eighth, and have those matches. So there's a seventh and eighth place match, which you say big whoop, but you don't make it like a steady drop in the pay. You make it a big difference between seventh and eighth, like more than it should be.
Like we've seen DJ.
to make that match worth it, and have the announcers talk about it. Say like, hey, this is like, essentially somebody's going to walk away from this with like 100,000. But the winner's going to walk away with this 500 or however you want to do it for those matches. I would watch stuff like that if there was actually, there was stakes and the guys were really trying.
Whatever the stakes are in the consolation match at match play wouldn't be enough, because we've seen some of the better players truly, like your Dustin Johnson mindset players, getting that consolation match and it's just like dead fish.
Yeah.
So, you'd have to really do something. And I agree. You have those guys play for staggered positions, but you make it like a whole day and you include like best players at all different like levels, sexes, again, like veteran, like they, I don't know. I just in my head think they can do it in a way. And that's all. Because I'm always asked for the solution when I complain. Match play is an obvious solution, but now I have a work into the flaw of the obvious solution.
Yeah, a little Steph Curry, Nelly Korda on the back end mixed in there would, spice it up a little bit.
I mean, the quarterbacks are busy, unless you're Brady, you could probably get the day off.
Yeah,
but the rest of
the whole week.
Yeah, the whole way, bro, 4 rounds, all of them. And don't get me started. That's for other stuff.
All right.
But that's it. Yeah, and I don't know, like how. Yeah, so we want to talk about like the 12 guys who can win the BMW or what?
Yeah,
new track.
Wilmington. It's one of those where it's like, oh man, I can't just pull my notes up from last year and like what did how did I rate this course? And like, I take a lot of notes on like what kind of player did I value high here, and then also did that work? Did I do okay betting here, or was my whatever you want to call it, your course thesis just wrong? Because I do like reevaluate at the end of a tournament. Like if I have a good or bad tournament, like go back and look at like here's how I built my numbers, and then I go look at who actually did well, and like were those the things that mattered? Was I right? Can I reuse this, or do I need to revisit it for next year? And Wilmington, they had a Palmer Cup here in like 2013. JT played in that. Other than that, fuck, I don't know anything, man. I read Ron's course preview to catch up. It's not.
So what do we do here, Andy? When we have we've had a few of these, right? Whether it's through COVID or we see these things happen periodically. I think there's a couple ways to approach it, where you can either basically pick a golfer archetype and just kind of build a card around, hey, if the course plays this way, I want to have multiple shots at the board, right? Whether that could be, as simple as just saying bombers or, iron play or guys that can be shorter, whatever. Or do you kind of spread around archetype and cover options at all points in case, since we don't know? Because I have a way, I pick a lane and just go with it because I want to have multiple shots at the board if I'm right. Right. It's just like, hey, if I'm right, I want to be rewarded for that. And I want to have as many bullets there on Sunday as possible. Or do you spread? Like, do you even have an approach when it comes to an unknown course?
I use form so much as part of and again, it's not just short-term form because I don't really believe in that. There's so much variance, but I have a weighted rolling form number I use, and that is literally a third of what I'm doing. So no matter what tracks here, what plays well here, you have to be somebody who's had a long into, again, weighted less, but short-term form. I start with that every time, and then I start looking at some of the things that are super predictive over the long term, like hitting the greens and scoring metrics. And then there's some weeks where it's like I have to throw it. Like you can't just say, "Oh, these guys are great with greens and regulations." Well, these greens here are the size of Feinberg's house because he's so rich now from winning on Zal again. The guy's got a mansion up there. These are huge.
Can't afford internet.
Yeah, the internet's giving him hell, but it is. You can look, as someone's bringing up in the chat, you can look at the course architect and say is there maybe some analogs to this based on someone who's built other courses. You can look at courses in the area that they've played because of how the agronomy of the course, whether it's greens, roughs, fairways, whatnot. But I definitely just start with the form, and then I build into what I think, and I do go with the archetype. And then again, you can have an archetype and be like, this is the kind of guy who wins here. And I can still hit the brakes and be like, well, that price sucks. If this guy wins, he beats me with that price, so be it. I treat it like horse racing.
So I agree. Like in theory, everything Andy said makes total sense. Makes total sense. And even for DFS and props, if I want to, the Sahith or the Pendrith, I want the course to fit them, even if I'm going to prop them. But for the purposes of the conversation we're going to have right now, which is outright winning, and we've already decided that it's truly such a finite group, like the most finite of finite group, and it's just the elite. I don't think all that other stuff that we would take into account if this was a full field and we're going to a new place in Illinois or Iowa, anywhere, because I think the win equity is so condensed. I almost if you think Colin Morikawa is due, or you saw enough last week to think it's his time and things are lined up, I don't care if he's got to hit it from 20 yards farther or 20 yards shorter off the tee. I just with the type of player we are all obviously betting and deciding between, these guys hit their ceilings on any course. No doubt there's things that fit them better. But I think for the purposes of this event, the normal argument to this question doesn't mean nearly as much especially if you're just betting within like a 16-player pocket at the very top for outrights. Your props, your DFS, your matchups, that totally, you got to go by that approach. Totally agree.
That's a good point. That's a good point, right? Which we're dealing with. Well, we have 68 guys here, and we do think it is a limited player pool, right? A lot of these guys are fighting for the 30 more so than fighting for the crown here at the BMW. So, odds board is loaded. Rory at the top again, makes sense. Then we're seeing some action on Rahm, who is getting steamed everywhere. There were some 15s early; those are gone. We're seeing a lot of 12s, some 14s left. Scotty, Matthew Fitz, JT, Cantley, Willie, Finau, Morikawa also steamed. Then you're basically down to Xander, and that for the most part is those guys are all available at or below 20 at multiple spots. I don't know that that's happened at any point so far this season that Andy has been the first in our Discord at BetSports Golf to fire first. He's usually actually will fire last. But he fired
Sometimes
first.
on Wednesday.
Called your shot even on Twitter, I think on Sunday evening, and then fired really early on Monday morning at the top of the board.
Yeah, I did play Morikawa, and then the market has been goofy. And we always knew it was going to be a goofy market because there's just so many guys under 20-1, and the way one of them gets bet, the other ones have to bounce up. Just the stasis or whatever. The symbiotic relationship between a bunch of guys being in the favorite range. I mean, there's weeks where the favorite is 18-1, and there was I looked at Colin opened at 18-1 at Bookmaker, and then other guys took money. He bounced down to 26, but when he was 18-1 at Bookmaker, he was the 10th golfer listed. It's so top heavy. And again, there's probably only 12 to 14 guys who can realistically win this unless you really have a weird outlier performance. And I have him he finally everything looks good with the new grip, and he putted really well against a really good field. And I just said, wow, fuck it. I'm going to play him if he's 22, 24. So 25, even higher numbers were popping up. I ended up playing that right away. And then I said, I'll just build the rest of the card from there. And usually, you're right. My card comes together in the morning of this show. Tuesday mornings is usually when I do finalize a lot of that. I don't add a lot of outrights after that. And a guy in the chat again is bringing up Zal going 1-0 with the caddy.
Right, floodgate theory, right? It's the Scotty Scheffler premise. Right, the floodgates open up.
Finau,
first off, I hope that other caddy got some money. To Jeff's point, I hope there was some sort of back end deal. Hey, you brought me here. You were a big part of my team. If I make any money in the playoffs, you're getting 5% of it still.
You can't lose your FedEx Cup bonus. There's a contract that he's probably gets a cut of the FedEx Cup. I don't know. I have no idea
how caddy contracts. I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's crazy. It's more than just okay, you're going to do this. When you are on the bag, there is a contract. These guys get cuts of there's different cuts and the way Will Zalatoris spoke, they're he sees him as a buddy for life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just assuming you never know. Money. I thought Kuchar was the nicest guy ever, and he, you could argue stiffs or not, depending if you give jaywalking tickets. If you're that kind of guy that's going to tell me I deserve a jaywalking ticket when the street's empty.
Yeah.
But that
I just wanted to say that my brain would be broken. It's was it my fault? I wouldn't sleep for 2 days thinking about was I holding him back? Would we have major trophies if we had
he's not sleeping.
And I know you, but
he's
the
not
human
sleeping.
condition. Yeah, I'm not sleeping.
We are literally a nose hair from having conversations of Zalatoris having a season that would only have remembered Spieth from 6-7 years ago. A U.S. Open, a PGA Championship, a Torrey Pines, a FedEx Cup. Be what the hell? Now, someone who's a Chargers fan, are just give me one and we're happy. Let me just one, whatever. That's a greedy conversation. I can't even get there. To your guy's point at the top, you could put 8 names in a hat and pull me 2-1, and I would just be like, okay, that's my guy. Like, that's who I got, and I wouldn't complain. If it was, you told me I had to bet Rory at the top, I think we might see some drift on because they're not really being talked about, and people want to make Firestone or congressional course comps. Last week's course, I feel, is very different to this week's, but I'm not certain how this week's is going to play. I'm just confident it's different than last week's. Zalatoris, he's as confident, it feels like, as he's been his whole life with his putter. Every time he's in the fairway, it's to 15 feet, and that's long. Like, that's probably being not generous. I'd probably say like 9 feet. Makes a bettable option. You could give me anybody. And I want to say, Andy, I've bet Morikawa at 27, but there's a huge asterisk behind it. I don't really – I've bet that because I'm in a position to hedge my season-long Morikawa Rahm future. So that isn't like an actual tournament bet, but I do have that ticket. But it's a hedge. It's not really part of this. I've told Ryan, I bet Rahm and I've bet Justin. I bet Rahm at 15, and I took the bet boost to Justin at 20. You can make a case for a lot of them. I'm such a Rahm fanboy that I don't know. We're here. It's the last week. All I wanted was a glimmer of life to make me think I can do this. And I feel like I got it. So I'm going there. And any questions about how it's going to play, in terms of just trusting a game for any course, it probably would be JT or Cantley. But JT's the guy I'd rather bet. And then yesterday, Cantley's number, at least at my book, got beside Rahm. And if it's Cantley or Rahm, I'm betting Rahm. Like, so yeah, I bet JT. If it, like, the irons, I don't know, the scrambling, the lag putting, every part of it. So Rahm and JT for me, and I don't know if I can really make many more bets, if any. Probably something at like 40 or 60, to be honest.
Yeah,
and
the 20 is really
too, like,
nice because we're like 16s everywhere. There are 14s on JT. Like the highest I'm seeing is 17 at Circa. So 20 there is a pretty great number. I'm with you on Rahm. It was enough, right? He led the field in greens and regulation last week. I know that total driving is like a really flawed, noisy stat, but I think anytime like someone is such a massive statistical outlier in a spot, you have to kind of note it. And again, total driving, we're just adding driving distance rank to driving accuracy rank. Super flawed stat, but he's like miles above anyone else on tour. His number is like 54. The next closest is Keith Mitchell at 92. It's a 38-point difference, and that's like the difference between the number 2 guy and the number 23 guy. Like, he is by far the best in that stat, and I think in a big way. And I think if we lead thinking that distance is going to be an advantage here this week, if the irons look like they did, I don't know. I think Rahm at 15 is a great price. Those are gone. There's some 14 still, so I would get in on JT at 20, but I'm with Jeff on Rahm at 15.
And the toughest part about this is, like, and I mean, again, the chat, he says, if you like Morikawa, you have to like Zal too. It's just like, I like everyone. I'm not sure there's a person in the top 12 that I can't be like, this person can win. It just
absolutely.
I had to whittle it down. I had to start looking at prices, and I wonder if, and again, all these top players, they're incredibly competitive. They want to win every week, but my case against Zal this week is I'm fine not exerting a bunch of mental strain, chasing someone down or having to play with the lead again. I'm fine with a nice little top 10 here and just putting myself in a beautiful spot to basically, I mean, again, and no one ever does this, but like, you can just, you win next week. You just retire. And again, I was close on Sungjae. There's a chance I might add Sungjae yet. He showed me a lot last week, and again, the prices came out a little weird. And it's like, man, would I bet Sungjae at 23 if I have my cards already halfway together? And it's like, a lot of these guys are just going to be, I'm going to use these in a bunch of matchups.
Okay. Will Zalatoris is as confident in his life as he's ever been with his putter. Like, that would almost feel like I need to bet that again. I am not. I will only say this. I would rarely ever bet guys to win back-to-back. The only reason that I had it in my head was because of Ryan's point as to what's happened this season. Like, when I get a guy on a win, if he wins again, I can be happy for him. You just want me money. Like, I'm not going to look at you and be annoyed. I remember, I need to do it with Bryson won back-to-back FedEx Cup events a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of feels like Zal can do it. But I don't know. I even kind of laughed at my buddy who hit Tony in Minnesota and was like, I'm just going back to Tony in Detroit. I'm like, again? Like, what do you mean? He's like, no, I'm just rolling it over. Like, and I love Tony, and I was cheering for Tony. But if not for the season we're in, I don't think I would even be considering betting Zalatoris again. But like I said, Andy's point, you could give me any of them. You can give me any of the top 8. I'd be like, that's the guy I'm rolling with. Like, let's go. Feels good as the guy who anyone else. Hard to differentiate, but I feel like I just got to invest in it because the winner is coming. It's coming. The winner is coming from here.
It was so tough. And again, like McIlroy and Rahm, it was tough with the price. Zal, again, the price is low, 15 in some shops. And again, like I said, with the motivation thing, JT, close, but price. Then I ended up going with Finau because it's like, this guy, like, if you want to just go form, like, nobody's
Incredible.
playing. Nobody is playing better golf. I was really close on Fitzpatrick. If that drifts out to like 20, I'm probably going to have a 5th outright. Scotty, I have super high again. And again, it's probably just, I can't have everybody in the 15 range. If he has like an unlucky round 1, that's a spot. I mean, any of these guys where I'm going to pay attention more on a Thursday than I often will, because I think there's a decent case, and maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, but what was Zal's price after Thursday? That any of these guys can go out and shoot even par and then win the tournament, because it's not going to be a birdie fest. This is a tough, longer course who has a few long holes, but if somebody comes up and they look fine on Thursday, they had a few bad breaks, or that's the sort of stuff that's not going to be contextualized great by just looking at the stats afterwards. But if you look like, the guy who's leading holed out a couple times from some spots, and this, he had a couple just bad bounces or landed in a divot, or God knows, there's a million things that you can consider as bad luck. And there's a good shot I'm going to take a couple of these guys who are in this top 15 that are like 5 or 6 strokes back on Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. I'll be looking at those guys. And I mean, just everyone we've named who I said the price is too much, there's some spots. And 110, says Matt in the chat. I don't even need that. If you give me Scheffler, who I thought I played fine, at like 50, 80, that's incredible, I think, for a short field where not only could he make the comeback, but it's not like a subpar Friday even keeps you. Like, you're not missing the cut because there ain't one. And all it takes is like, oh man, just 162 on like Saturday, and any of these guys who have it are absolutely back in. So I think that's probably why I'm sticking with just the 4 outrights, because I feel like, and I say this all the time and never do it, it seems like, but I likely will be looking pretty hard Thursday afternoon at some live ads.
Yeah, so that's kind of the note that I had too, because I thought that was a great point. Because I want to approach the week a little different. Because from an outright standpoint, I typically am betting to like a 2-win range, so that kind of dictates the stakes for me. But I want to play it a little different because I'm going to have fewer finishing position bets, because I'm not paying an arm and a leg on these, the juice to lay, top 30, top 40 for these guys in a 68-man no cut event. So maybe adding some guys late, taking some shots on the guys that I'm skipping here that I really want to get in on if they skip. And I put on a full tinfoil hat here. I don't think that they like the BMW going, like it happened here in like Conway Farms in Lake Forest in Chicago, and even at Medina a couple of years ago, where we've seen these like minus 25s. I think it probably plays a little hard Thursday, Friday. And then I think they would love to have some fun pin placements on Saturday and Sunday for the TV audience to get just some exciting golf to finish with really the top names in the board. So
I love what you said there too, because they can make this course easy.
Mhm.
There's a par 4. They've already said, hey, we're probably going to have this drivable at some point, which is, you don't do that on Thursday, you do it on Sunday for the TV. Like
totally.
there's a bunch of ways where you can make, hey, this all of a sudden, and again, these par 5s, a couple of them are so long. Like it's just, there's not going to be eagles for the most part, unless you're finding it from a fairway. But like there are holes that they can ease up on, and there's a decent chance there's a Saturday setup where, again, somebody who was 80, 90, 100 to 1 can go out and shoot a 61, 62, something wild like that and get yourself in it. So I mean, kind of pick your spots there, but I'll be looking at that pretty hard.
Yeah, JT Fitz, Zalatoris, Finau are kind of the guys that I really wanted to get down on, but again, kind of going at the top with Rahm pre-tournament, stay there. How about when we shift down to the next tier? Is there anything that you've done in there, Jeff, that I know you did Rahm and JT at the top, but and we're not doing bombs this week. Have you done anything a little bit below that tier?
No. So there are very few players left that I'm even considering. And, depending on who I pick, it could make me overexposed because I've got JT, I've got Rahm, a 15, a 20. Not say I'm not above doing a couple of things more. A lot of love for Young and Morikawa for obvious reasons. They're getting the steam. I mentioned my hedge position with Morikawa on some season-long bets. I'm not really thinking – I don't know that I'm going to jump off the Hovland wagon, who I've seen at 30. I've seen as high as 33. Long course, guys. Huge greens. We'll take some of that the around the green stuff out of play. If the greens are so big – I don't know. I trust Hovland. He obviously didn't live up to the ceiling projection I had coming last week, but I felt so high that a ceiling pop is still there. Like, I don't really want to go away, especially 30, 33. I think if it plays long, it plays into him. He hits those greens. That's who I would be thinking. Neiman, I totally see it. I get why he's getting the love. Anytime you do bent grass, he stays alive in my process almost to the end. And to skip a little farther, it'd be the 65 Decky at DraftKings, the 60s on Hatton. Like those 4 players, if I add anybody, I promise it will be from that group. Similar names, I guess, as I've
drew
been
my
saying.
eyes for a second.
Hideki, 4th off a withdraw at the Olympics, withdrew before the Olympics, finished 4th, finished 14th, withdrew right before the Masters this year, guys. For all the jokes and easy perceptions that can be had and the narrative that's fun, sneaky quality track record off of those WDs. And if DraftKings wants to correlate that 65 into the placing market, probably won't, because as Ryan said, with 70 guys, you're really just laying juice pretty much everywhere. I don't know. Maybe there can be a correlated opportunity with Hideki, whose name and the quality of player, if he's in this thing, you would trust him. Like, he's as good as the guys at the back of the 20s and stuff, and clearly he's more established.
Yeah, it jumps off the page as just a bad number. It was same. It sounds like we all gave it a long look and would not be a bad last ad, because it is a bomb as far as the board goes. But it like Jeff said, like from a skill set, he's in the 20s.
And if I gotta skip like the 30s, just because my positions at the top have said, by the nature of card building, I shouldn't be allowed. Although I would argue the guy playing, say, Scheffler on an each way at 16 to 1. That's really that gets praised and is like, and I'm not picking on this, but they're like people who are and I agree, they are like preeminent people, and I believe they actually move numbers. But taking Scheffler or any top guy with a full each way, I'm doing the exact same thing, just taking 2 outright. Like, it's the exact same double dip pricing. I'm just taking 2 guys to win. Like we're investing the exact same in that. And anyhow, I just noticed when I do certain things, like but other people, like, I don't know, they get a free pass. They get like their output seems to be on like Mondays and Tuesdays. They're like free rolling the each way as it pertains to the output. Now they're disclosing that they're each ways, but I mean I may have said too much, but they're like not, I don't know. They're putting the exact same shit out in terms of exposure. Like they're doubling their bet.
I'm tracking you.
No, I get I get what you're saying.
I think it's a different week though, because it is a 68-man field, no cut event, that I think some of the rules on card building can go out the window a little bit. If you feel like we're really looking at a list of, 12 to 15 guys that we really think can win here, I think it's okay, because you probably are not, very different from me. If you like to bet finishing positions, it's probably not a great week to do so. I think it's probably really hard to find as many edges in the matchups because you have fewer bottom tier guys to pick on. And, again, it's really hard to maybe, especially at the top of the board, differentiate between a few of these guys. I'm sure Andy will go on another heater and have like another 13 in 2 weeks because he's just been rolling out of bed and printing in the matchup section all year. But
the books,
I'm worried about matchups this week. We don't have I love betting people down at the bottom.
Right.
Like, last week I had matchups with some guys near it, and boy, some of the bad tournaments were like the John Deere. It's like, oh yeah, buddy, I'll find me down in the mud betting Martin Trainer matchups. But
yeah,
it gets tougher because the difference between these guys is so small. But that's what I do like about a smaller field. The books feel like they have to offer more of the same guys. So if you do really believe in someone or really want to fade someone, there's usually 2 or 3 shots at it. And that's one of those where it's like, yeah, you don't have to be right on all 3. Just 2 out of 3 pays.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you can break the unwritten rules this week, buddy.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. I don't really have it. Of course. It's a weird book. People that don't normally play the top I'm betting under 18 to 1. If that's just potentially where it is. I've seen some guys that do long shots throw out a single bullet card just at the top. I will say one thing that caught my eye on the board was that the books really don't, for an event like this, the books are still telling you they don't want you to bet Cam Davis, or they're going to give you nothing on Cam Davis in terms of the other markets, because he's been a ball striking machine and it's just such a big event. Like I see him in like the 60s, like, holy shit, you don't want me to touch him. But I think everyone's numbers are showing the same thing there.
Yeah, he's one of the interesting bombs. I took a couple shots still in the 30 section. Well, I guess they're now in the 20s, low 20s. I took Burns at 30. Whatever. I just bet Sam Burns all the time. Played pretty well last week. Just didn't play well on Sunday. Lost like 2.5 strokes in the green. That doesn't happen very often on Bermuda. Cam Young, I got at 33 first thing Monday. That's gone everywhere now. But again, just building on if we think it's going to play with some distance. The ball striking has been pretty fantastic. You want to build into the Wake Forest narrative as if the kid could possibly be any more motivated. It's down to 28s, 25s, 22s at FanDuel. And then I bet Homa again at 50 because, again, I bet Sam Burns and Max Homa every week. And,
just playing the hits again.
Playing the hits. Aaron Wise he'll be bet, but he won't make the official card. But there's no way I cannot throw a couple.
Here's a good call if you want a real degen bet. Matt in the chat here. Go back to an old classic beauty, out of form Harold Varner III to lead round 1. Like that is in the realm of possible, even with every good golfer in the world here besides Cam and that's Fleetwood, I guess. But I know I was breaking my brain trying to remember why we were at 68, not 69. I forgot that it's Fleetwood, right? He's like 50th or whatever.
My God.
Which is dumb. Like, give someone his spot, right?
So I gotta give someone a spot. Who can I give my Fleetwood money to, guys? You don't think I'd have lost money on Fleetwood last week? You don't think I'd be doubled up this week? You guys be talking about Cam Young one, I gotta bet, or Zalatoris one, I gotta bet Cam Young. I'd be like, Fleetwood, like it'd be screaming Fleetwood to me, like the way the year is gone. Yeah, I don't know. What a class act. He just sort of said, like, I don't know. There's no live rumors with him at all. He's kind of said no chance, but just like, yeah, I'm taking some time off. My mommy's passed and recently, and I'm just going home to relax. Crazy. Tee it up. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. He's DraftKings is the place, it looks like, from a pre-tournament bet on him. So maybe that's the best place from a first-round leader standpoint. That makes it a little bit easier to sprinkle on some of the live action that Andy's talking about in tournament once you cash that HV3 on Thursday night. So tuck you in real nice and you can sprinkle back at the top. I'm with you guys. Like, again, home at 50 is my bomb. There are a couple guys that are of interest to me. Jeff's referenced Sahith and Pendrith a couple times. I think that they're very interesting. I would add Keith Mitchell to that as well. Just, driving, par 5 scoring, those things are kind of where we like to go with Mitchell. But I kind of agree. I think it's maybe wasted money this week. So Andy, are you entertaining anything way down?
You got to each way it. Like, I don't know if it's available to everybody, and I'm never an each way guy. Like, I can't imagine betting Pendrith or Sahith and not taking placings on it in a field like event like this.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I thought I'd get cute with it last week, guys, and I'm not the person who's like, I'm betting 3 units on this and 4. Like, everything's just flat because that's how I bet, and like that's how I present my bets. And I still had a really, really good week. I won like 15 units, and I went 0-5 in top 20 matchups. I pissed away a bunch of, like, I'm saying I had a really nice week from a financial standpoint, and still went 0-5 in top 20. I don't know what is wrong with that part of how I pick players, but I think if you go look at my overall success rate in placing markets, it's just not good. So I thought about that again, where it's like, all right, I don't, because an each way essentially is just a placement. Like, you want them to finish high. I couldn't even get my guys into top 20, the long shots from last week. So I'm just done with that bullshit for the longest time possible. But I mean, you guys know who I'm going to say for like my long shots are always the same ones. It's like, Connors isn't a long shot, but he's a bigger price. Russell Henley all the time. It's always Russell Henley week. Mito, 100. Mito for a top 20, 30, 40 is something that I really want to bet, but I know I'm just going to lose money on it. So we're just going to not piss away that extra cash this week.
And Grillo.
Probably it for the big ones. Like Horschel's there for me. Keegan Steele always pop up for me. Grillo, Munoz. And then, Homa's 60 something in a couple places. It's real close, but again, I'm trying to keeping it tight.
Connor's to me sort of like the same way I always believed in Finau and Willie, not to the talent level, but I do believe his his win is just as likely at a really strong, like, prestigious field, not just saying a major, as it is to like the 22-1 Connors in a muck. Like, I feel like the week it hits almost won't matter like who is there, unless you get that sort of Rory in Canada outdueling Finau in Canada, because I don't know if you remember that. The statistical anomaly, Finau would have won like 98 of 100 PGA events. Rory had this all-time thing. But yeah, I'm always here for Connors. And another reminder, guys, it's time. Lay that President's Cup juice. Because come Monday morning, when they're having a conversation, should we make Taylor Pendrith a captain's pick? He played so great this week. You're going to laugh and be like, I got USA to just crush these guys. And I say that as someone that loves Pendrith, but that's just like the situation, okay?
I spent a lot of time playing around with it, putting money in to see what it would take to get like a decent return.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And as I'm doing it, someone that Andy and I are in a chat with, a very sharp guy, gave out a Mountain West Fresno State pick for college football. And I was like, you know what? I'm dicking around with this President's Cup stuff. So I parlayed a Mountain West bet on Fresno State Bulldogs, and I added the United States over the rest of the world in the President's Cup. So I got a little President's Cup, action through the Bulldogs of Fresno State. So we'll do it all together. Full degen. So I'm in. Spread it out a little bit though.
Yeah, I'm making a parlay right now.
Took the 3-1 Bulldogs to win the Mountain West. So
Medvedev to beat Bodik van der Zandschloop. I'm putting together with some tennis matchups for today.
There you go.
We can just fade Venus Williams for the rest of history until she retires. Yeah, we're gonna get a nice number on this eventually.
See,
look at that. Just I don't round. What are we doing? Round robbing me? Can't talk. Anyway, I digress. Excited for the BMW. Somebody asked about Mullinax. Any impressions from him last week?
It's great.
He hit the ball really well.
He's gonna be like
can hit
40% owned on DraftKings.
Yeah. DFS wise, his number is down there.
So. 150s out there again. Like I can't.
I like him into form. He kind of put himself in. Like I'm not betting him to win, and I don't want to roster him at that percentage. So it's hard because the prop market's inflated or deflated in terms of the placings. But yeah, I would like to find a way to like invest in Mullinax and his form. To be honest.
Yeah, that might be one of your matchups, Andy,
if
down the board.
If he's matched up against like Tringali or Bazudenhout, yeah, I would. And again, price depending, I would probably bet him. There's definitely spots to look at him in the matchups market for sure. They're usually going to put him up, against guys that are in the similar range for outright markets. And yeah, I don't hate him in the matchups for sure.
Seeing him, oh no, it's not anywhere. Maybe you have it. Lucas Glover is the only matchup I see. But man, Lucas Glover played some fantastic golf too.
I'm a Lucas Glover guy. I played Glover over Fowler. And Drew and I were in Vegas. And I have a tracker on a spreadsheet, and I looked and I'm like, oh, they're both 7 under. And then I checked later and I'm like, oh, he's up by like 8 strokes. What the fuck? Fowler had that disaster on 18 on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go check because I had Fowler bet against in a daily matchup that day too, which again, you're going to be the guy that gets stung by good luck and bad luck both ways. You just take them both and smile. So when you win a matchup on somebody shooting an absolute hilarious 9 to close out a round, you just take it and shake hands. Cause I brought up Tringali. I've lost matchups in hilarious ways. He's won where he didn't sign his scorecard, got DQ'd after like beating his opponent by 8 strokes or something hilarious, end up losing a matchup. So, but yeah, let's call it a BMW. I'll let you guys go. Jeff is hiding from us now. I think he's probably fixing his hair.
No.
Can't fix magic. It's already magic.
Can't buy the magic. Magic's not for sale, boys.
All right, gents. Good stuff as always. We will be back to talk the Tour Championship next week at East Lake, which will be a chore, not a great betting event, but we'll be here because we love you. So for Andy and Jeff, I'm Ryan. We'll see you next time.